Hello again. Essay here. In one of my previous videos, I mentioned in passing about Doctor Who and how they had a tendency to replace the actors in order to keep the show going. Well, what I didn't mention was what happened after the original series wrapped up. Now, of course, I was never really into the Redux series. I mean, because, what can I say? I'm old school. I always liked the original series. Why? Because of the writing. Yeah, the visual effects was trash, but the one redeeming feature was the writing. And, of course, some of the ladies who were the Doctor's companion. I mean, like, for example, Elizabeth Sladen, who played Sarah Jane Smith. Oh, I liked her. I mean, the girl was cute looking and she was funny. And indeed, the original, and indeed Romana, and I ain't talking about Lena Warren, I'm talking about the original Romana, Mary Tamlin. Yeah, I like her too. Too bad she only stuck around for one season, but whatever. And indeed, the funny thing is, she didn't act that much. In fact, the one film that she was in that everybody probably saw was some crazy film called "The Tales That Witness Madness." And you say, "What the hell is that?" Well, it was just some photocopy of Tales from the Crypt, one of those macabre little horror films. And Mary's part in there. Well, she had a small part in the film where she gets done in, which I'm not going to elaborate. But yeah. But as for the new series, it wasn't like I didn't try to watch it. No, honestly, I did. Indeed, I watched the first season with that guy, Christopher, was it Eccleston, I think I'm mispronouncing his name. In fact, anyone who saw 28 Days Later probably remembers him. Remember, he was that military officer who was hanging out at the mansion during the zombie apocalypse, and he was telling he was on the rail telling a bullshit story about he had found a cure for the virus. And remember, the protagonist showed up there at the mansion. Yeah, that clown. Yeah, that was the guy who played the first of the Doctor in the new Redux series. And like I said, I did watch that season, and I have to admit, okay. I'm not saying that the writing was terrible. It was just different. And of course, that woman they hired to play his companion, that Piper chick, she was okay looking. Funny thing is, I only saw her in like two other programs where she was basically playing hoes. Why? I don't know. I guess what's that damn woman that was in the Dark Knight, that Juno Temple? I guess that Piper chick, I guess she's good at playing hoes. Whatever. And I will concede that Julian chick, Miss Redhead from the Jumanji films, yeah, she's all right. Yeah, too bad she's married now, but yeah, I like her. She's okay. Yeah. But but the show itself, yeah. I mean, mixed bag of fruit. Just a mixed bag of fruit. But anyway, this video is not so much about the actors that were in this Redux Doctor Who. No, it's about the overall trajectory of the show. Now, our old friend, Critical Drinker, yeah, that wild and crazy kook, he basically made a video about the trajectory of the Redux Doctor Who show. And let's just say this, he ain't holding his tongue at all. Okay, are you ready? Here we go.
Oh, how the turns have tabled. It seems like only yesterday that the 100 or so Doctor Who fans that were still watching the show rejoiced, for the dark times were surely ending. Jodie Whittaker's wildly unpopular 13th Doctor was finally departing for that big blue police box in the sky, and Chris Chibnall, who was to Doctor Who what Rian Johnson was to Star Wars, was also going with her. Even better, Russell T Davies, the man who successfully brought the show back from a decade-long hiatus, was returning as showrunner. David Tennant, by far the most popular Doctor in the modern era, was also coming back for a series of special episodes. It really did feel like the adults were back in the room, that the BBC had finally been forced to learn their lesson, and that common sense had won out. Then we actually watched it.
We're binary. She's not. Because the Doctor's male and female. And neither. And more.
Ha! Gay! It didn't take long to realise that this was not the same Russell T Davies we'd had back in 2005. Or maybe I should say, this is who Russell T Davies was all along, only now he was fully unleashed, free to indulge his every fantasy and push his every agenda. And like so many other people for whom the message is more important than the package it comes in, Doctor Who yet again became nothing but a soapbox to lecture the unwashed masses from. The show hadn't been saved. In fact, it was only going to get worse.
But it's so sad!
Fuck. Ncuti Gatwa's first season was everything that people feared it would be. A big, campy, silly, preachy, poorly written mess of a show that relegated the Doctor, one of the most imposing, dangerous and intelligent characters in the universe, into the role of a crying, useless, effeminate moron who often gets pushed aside while other characters save the day. Whatever remained of the Doctor Who audience, and those must have been some truly hardy souls to have stuck around after the Timeless Children, were understandably appalled and departed in their millions. And I really mean that. The show's ratings declined by almost 50% over the previous season, and they weren't exactly great to begin with. The season even recorded the lowest overnight ratings in the show's entire 62-year history, with barely 2 million people watching episode 7. Jesus, more people watch my fucking YouTube channel than this show now. Anyway, even a state-sponsored propaganda outlet like the BBC, who get their funding by literally forcing the British public to finance their dogshit programming, could only afford to ignore reality for so long, and in the face of laughably bad ratings and growing public backlash, they and old Russell himself were forced to go on the defensive and deny rumours that the show was being cancelled. Apparently, Russell was actually quite happy that the majority of his own audience had quit. The audience no one ever gets is the under-30s. They just don't watch television anymore, but those figures are astronomical for Doctor Who. It's their top programme in that bracket. That's interesting, Russell, because I'm pretty sure Doctor Who used to be considered a family show, and families generally include young people. But then again, I guess the concept of a plain old heteronormative British family with a mum and a dad and a couple of kids gathered around the TV for a bit of wholesome escapist fun is to you and your BBC mates what properly fitting trousers are to Mark Hamill. Even Ncuti Gatwa decided to weigh in on the backlash, telling people who had a problem with his Doctor and the show's, modern themes to fuck off and touch grass.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for them.
Well, as it turned out, they did, and they didn't come back. Even the announcement of a new writing team wasn't enough to revive fan interest. Let's see what we've got here, shall we? Well, first up there's Juno Dawson, a transgender author best known for her novels This Book is Gay and The Gender Games.
Right.
Inua Elams, a Nigerian poet whose work focuses on race and identity.
Not a great plan.
Peter McTighe, one of the writers for the 13th Doctor.
Son of a bitch!
And Sharma Walfall, a winner from a Channel 4 writing competition with approximately 3 credits to her name.
Really?
Nice one, BBC. With an all-star lineup like that, how can you go wrong? Anyway, all of this brings us, dear viewer, to the present day, and the latest news that not only has young Shooty decided to bail on the show now that he's finished filming his second season, not only has Russell decided to follow him, but the BBC is now considering shelving the entire thing for at least 5 years. Oh dear, it's almost like there's consequences to our decisions, and if you decide to turn a beloved British institution that's been around even longer than you've been alive into a shitty self-indulgent vanity project that only appeals to people exactly like you, then the consequences is that you're out of a job, sonny.
It never feels important to me, it feels natural, because you've got to realize that is my world. It's my only world.
Yeah.
I don't recognize any other world, and if you look at the rest of my work, I mean, that's the work I've been doing since 1999. So it's just natural to me. There's no other way I would write.
See, that right there is the problem with making one single facet of your life into the core of your entire identity. Pretty soon it begins to colour everything that you say and do. And write. Pretty soon you start to believe that everyone sees the world exactly as you do, that the things which matter so much to you matter just as much to the rest of us, that your work is above reproach because you're on the right side of history. Well, as it turns out, it isn't, and you're not, old boy. I mean, it's not like Russell or Shooty have to give a shit about any of this. Gatwa's apparently headed for Hollywood, where he already has roles lined up.
If you don't like it, tough. I had my fun, and that's all that matters.
A source close to the show told the UK Sun, Shooty doesn't want to be tied to the series beyond this and plans to relocate to Los Angeles with several Hollywood projects standing by for him. His team also see a lot of fan backlash from the series and don't want the perception of him still being the Doctor to get in the way of any future work. Yeah, I'm sure he's got a team behind him. Jesus, how big do you think this guy is? Meanwhile, Russell is working on a new show for Channel 4 called Tiptoe, and would it shock you to know that it's based around a group of LGBT characters?
No way!
You've got to realize that is my world. It's my only world.
Fuck me, one thing I'll say about that dude, at least the man's consistent. No, the people that are really gonna lose out from all of this are the little guys, the production crew, the smaller actors, the technical people, the set builders, and all the other roles that go into making a big long-term show like this. Apparently the atmosphere on set was pretty bleak when filming wrapped on season 2 because everyone knew the writing was on the wall and they were probably going to be out of a job when it was all over. The same source who spoke up about Gatwa leaving also said, the show's been poorly managed in recent years and there's a lot of people who've been working on this show for years and are now being cast aside due to poor leadership. Apparently people had warned that the episodes were becoming too caught up in an agenda rather than focusing on telling a story, and those people were apparently shouted down and ignored. Because of course they were. Because Doctor Who isn't allowed to be just a fun, escapist sci-fi show that everyone can enjoy anymore. It's a show made by wealthy, metropolitan, progressive elitists who think the entire world are also wealthy, metropolitan, progressive elitists and can't conceive of anything or anyone outside of their own tiny little bubble. And of course, now that the bubble's burst and the show's teetering on the brink of cancellation, the inevitable cope from legacy journalists has begun. My favourite's got to be this article from the Radio Times, where we've moved from "it's not happening," skipped the whole "it might be happening but it's a good thing" excuse, and jumped straight to "it's always been happening and you were just too stupid to realise it." No, it hasn't, you fucking spam sandwich. That's why Doctor Who was able to survive longer than the average life expectancy of a Scottish human, by appealing to a broad audience, by telling interesting, well-written and entertaining stories that anyone could get wrapped up in, whether they were male or female, gay or straight, black or white, old or young, or rich or poor. There was something for everyone in Doctor Who, because story and character always came before the message. Because the people making it actually cared about the show and its history and its audience. Because they were more than just obsessive ideologues determined to push their particular worldview onto everyone else. It's the same retarded "all art is political" argument that gets trotted out whenever people push back against divisive identity politics and sneering lectures that get awkwardly crowbarred into projects where they don't belong. What they really mean when they say this is that all art should validate my particular worldview, parrot my beliefs, reinforce my opinions. Because those are the only ones that can possibly be true, right?
Wrong.
But funnily enough, the moment that art expresses different ideas and opinions, ones they don't personally agree with, suddenly it becomes dangerous and harmful and has to be stopped at all costs. Because we can't possibly have the approved metropolitan progressive elitist worldview being challenged and held up to scrutiny now, can we? Because then maybe people would come to the realization that what we believe is actually bullshit and everything we've convinced ourselves to be true is actually a lie. That is what good art, Doctor Who included, used to do so well, carefully weaving alternative ideas and different perspectives into entertaining storylines and trusting the audience to form their own opinions about them, giving them something to think about, you might say.
Okay, you saw that. Yeah. Now, of course, some of you are probably saying, oh, well, what do they expect? The Redux Doctor Who got all woke and stupid. And I'm thinking, yep. And, of course, let's not pretend it was a long time coming. Oh, yeah. It didn't happen overnight. Nope. But of course, as you saw in a Critical Drinker's video, it seemed as though when the people, brought the show back from the dead, they were trying to make a good show, and I'm thinking, okay, I guess I'll give them that. But then things just went off the rails, and not in a good way. No. Indeed, as you saw in Critical Drinker's video, they said that the original guy, that Russell guy, he tried to do his best to make a good show. But I think he just got overwhelmed. Because, what's the cliche? No man's an island. Or, as my mom once told me, you can't be a virgin in a whorehouse. Just saying. And yeah. And I guess in the case of Davies, he was surrounded by too many whores, metaphorically speaking. And he ended up being a whore himself. A whore to what? As old Elon would say, the woke mind virus. And of course, some of you who watched the Redux show, episode by episode, you probably saw how the whole damn jalopy was falling apart at the seams. Yeah. And the worst thing about it was the problem wasn't really the actors, because as I mentioned in my previous video, David Tennant, very popular guy. Yeah, I think women still, like I said, women are still throwing their panties at him every time he walks out on the street. And Matt Smith, yeah, I saw him a whole bunch of stuff. And the guy's funny. Yeah. Because I remember correctly, he originally was a stage actor before he got involved in movies. And oh my God, Peter Capaldi, holy shit. I mean, he's one of those kind of character actors that you would see in a TV show or a movie, and you see him, but you recognize their face, but it doesn't quite click. And like I said, Capaldi, man, I had seen him in movie and TV show for years, but I didn't know who he was. And I kept looking at him. I said, I know that guy. And now if I had to look him up, and I realized, oh, that's where I saw him in. And believe me, this guy, he's been acting since the 80s. And you say, what? Yeah, that guy ain't young. That guy, I think me and him, I think he's about a couple years older than I am. But yeah, because I think the first thing I saw him in was this crazy horror film called The Lair of the White Worm, which is actually pretty good. It came out back in the 80s. Look it up sometime. Really good film, Lair of the White Worm. Look it up. Good film. You'll enjoy it. It's crazy. It's wild. It's kooky, and etc. Yeah, I remember seeing him in that, and also saw him in The Local Hero and a whole bunch of other stuff. And like I said, always saw his face, but I couldn't figure out the name. And then, of course, as for the people who came after him, like that water maker chick, yeah, I know she's a total cipher. And then, of course, this new clown who, oh my God, I mean, I looked at this guy's name multiple times, and hey, no disrespect, homie, but brother, I cannot pronounce that name. I mean, I'm looking at the name, and I'm thinking, what's that, Gawa? And what's his Chica? It almost sounds like cunt. I mean, seriously, you try to pronounce his name, and look, if you, in the end is silent, it comes out like cunt Jiwa, and I'm thinking, dude, you gotta change your name, dude. That name ain't working out. I mean, seriously. And of course, if you've watched the new Doctor Who's, you say, yeah, I seen that guy's name too, and I can't pronounce it either. Hey, I'm with you. That's why I don't even try. I just embarrass myself. But still. But what Critical Drink didn't mention his video was right around just before the most recent Doctor Who, the Black Doctor Who. I think I'll just call him that from now on. What he didn't mention was that the people at the British government, which owns the BBC, made a deal with the let's just say the forces of Mordor. And you say, what? Yeah, aka Disney. And you say, what? Yep. Now, of course, at this point you're saying, you mean Disney is involved in Doctor Who? And the answer is, yep. Now, right now, some of you probably just coughed up your damn mocha latte through your nose, and I'm thinking, hey, I'm with you. I mean, considering how completely twisted Disney has become, you don't want them touching any pre-existing IP. I mean, seriously. Because what's the cliche? Everything that's woke turns to shit. Well, according to the computer, back in 2022, the British government, aka the BBC, made a deal with Disney. The deal says that Disney gets first dibs on all new Doctor Who episodes and broadcasted them exclusively outside of England. So it doesn't matter if you're living in Timbuktu, Siberia, Antarctica, or some point in between. If you're watching brand new Doctor Who's and you're not in England, you're watching them on Disney Plus. However, what Critical Drinker didn't say, and I had to take a deep dive into this, is that there were people in the BBC, a few, who basically, stayed in the shadows. They didn't like the deal. And at this point, you're saying, why? Well, according to unnamed sources in the BBC, they didn't like the deal that they made with Disney because they thought it was giving, wait for it, you ready? They thought it was giving Disney too much power over the production of the show. Think about that. Now, at this point, if you actually stayed watching the show, and as you saw in Critical Drinker, after they got rid of that blonde lady and briefly had David Tennant come back, which is, I don't know what's going on there. And then they hired the black guy to play the character. And then people realize, oh my God, it's even more woke and crazy. Now, you know why. And now they're saying that they're going to wind down the show, as you saw in Critical Drinker, even though the BBC claimed, oh, that's not happening. And I'm thinking, oh, it's happening. It's happening. Because like PBS in the United States, the BBC doesn't have untold billions of dollars to play with. At least not till recently, since old Doge has been taking all the money away, but whatever. Yeah. They always had shoestring budgets on their shows. Anyone who's watched enough BBC programming can tell you. But I have to admit, the one thing that those English have is very good writers. I mean, anyone who's watching the PBS stuff, or the Masterpiece Theater stuff, or oh my God, mystery episodes from England, knows that those people have very excellent writers. So that at this point you say, so why'd they screw it up on Doctor Who? Or should I say the Redux version? Because as you saw in Critical Drinker's video, you had a bunch of weirdos, kooks, people who basically pushing critical theory and third wave feminism, and oh my God, what's some of those catchphrases people like to throw around? Deconstructivism and decolonization. You like that term? Yeah. They brought these people into the writing room and they basically let them said have fun, and they did. And now you're surprised that the show just went up like the Hindenburg, big ball of flame. Yeah, precisely. And thus, these people killed the golden goose. And as you saw in Critical Drinker's video, it doesn't matter if they put the show on hiatus for 5 years or 55,000 years. These people have killed the golden goose. They ruined a good show. Well, good for the most part. I can't really, like I said, good for the most part back when they had good writing. But like I said, the Redux show, I'll concede it had good visual effects. I'll concede that. It had really good visual effects. And of course, some of you say, oh, but thanks to modern tech, it doesn't cost that much. Are you kidding me? Have you seen the prices on some of these damn visual effects movies coming out of Hollywood? Yeah, they're hugely expensive. And of course, some of these films don't even have that much visual effects in them. They're still hugely expensive. Yeah, we're talking about you, Black Panther. But yeah, digital effects, that shit is expensive. I mean, especially if you go to outfits like Industrial Light and Magic, which I don't think the BBC is using. In fact, I think they're probably using old Peter Jackson's operation down there in New Zealand. Was it called Wimbu or Wambu? I can't pronounce the name properly. Because I remember reading years ago, Peter Jackson, his outfit doesn't charge as much to do visual effects for big time movies compared to some of the outfits here in the United States, like George Lucas's outfit. But anyway, we digress. But still, are you not surprised that these people ruined the show? I mean, you let these kooks into your program and they just blow it up from the inside. And anyone who is familiar with modern Disney knows that modern Disney, there's so many kooks and crazies and ideologues inside that company that you makes you wonder how is that place even still running at all. Indeed, Jeremy from the Quartering mentioned recently in one of his videos that the damn people at Disney apparently have been losing so much money on their crap programming that they had jacked up the rates at Disneyland and Disney World to unbelievable heights. Indeed, in that video, he said that people on average, I think if you like have the mommy, the daddy, and the two little kids going to Disneyland or Disney World, it's going to cost you on average $3,000. Now, right now, some of you just spit up your damn your Mokolati again. This time it came out of your ears. But hey, what? Take a chill pill, all right? Because my family used to go to Disneyland. Yeah, back in the 20th century. And believe me, we were not rich. And yet, it only cost us, I think at the time, because it was like 7 of us. And that's not counting our cousins who might want to come along. But it usually cost us like $200. But back in the 1960s and 70s, that was a lot of money. And of course, they had that booklet system back in those days, the A through the E ticket. Yeah. I mean, that's how they ran things. In fact, the last time I haven't been to Disneyland since the 1980s. Yeah, been a long time. But considering the prices they're charging nowadays, no, I ain't going back. Yeah. But still, as you saw in Critical Drinker's video, yeah, these woke weirdos ruined a decent legacy series. And it's not coming back. Now, as for Disney, I hope they got their money's worth. Or I should say, I hope they're happy now. These people, they managed to worm their way into a show. And of course, as you saw in the Critical Drinker's video, when that blonde lady was on there playing the doctor, they had some woke weirdo, but then when they kicked both of them out because they were ruining the show, and then brought back Davies, unfortunately that was around the same time they made the deal with Disney. And I guess as Obi-Wan said about Darth Vader, he got seduced by the dark side. And I'm thinking, that's probably what happened. Which means he's probably now spouting all of that rhetoric, as you saw in Critical Drinker's video, not because he's probably a true believer. He's probably doing it, what's the cliche? To go along, to get along? Yeah. But I guess what these people didn't realize is the world's changing. And people just don't want this garbage anymore. They don't want to be preached to. They don't want the critical theory, the third, fourth, fifth way feminism, the deconstruction. They don't want none of that garbage. They just want to be entertained. And these people don't get it. These people, as you saw in Critical Drinker's show, they don't get it. People do not want to be scolded by people who think they're, as my mom would say, better than you. And let's not pretend most of these ideological types, they're no better than a plate of beans. They just think they're better. Well, Doctor Who is finished, and it's a sad thing to see, considering I was once a fan. Just a quick reminder to all of you that my short story, The White Cat, is still available on Substack. The links are down below in the description. Join Margot Thompson, a beautiful stage actress and recent widow who finds salvation in the form of a white cat during a night of terror. And while you're looking up my oddball thriller, my book series, Glitch, is still available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and other bookstores. The links are down below in the description. Join Ike and Sandra, a reluctant jewel thief and a kidnapped teen model who are on the run from the law across the American Southwest. Yep. Indeed, one of my favorite Doctor Who episodes ever was The Talons of Wing Chiang. And you say, never heard that episode. Yeah, well, most people haven't. You know why? Because most people consider that episode, are you ready? Racist. And you say, what? Yeah. And I saw it way back in the 20th century. And you know what? It's not racist. Just saying. Well, so long, Doctor Who. It's been nice knowing you. And that's my opinion.